Juan, canal oficial YouTube. Hoy tenemos un programa muy importante en exclusiva y vamos a hablar con la media hermana de Obama, que es Nancy Ruth Owens. Actualmente está escribiendo un libro sobre todo lo que ha ido sucediendo, ¿no? Vamos a desvelar muchísimas exclusivas, ¿no? Porque las exclusivas que se van a desvelar son muy serias. Bien, tenemos a nuestro lado izquierdo, desde San Antonio, Texas, a Adalberto Cervantes Rodríguez, fundador de la tecnología RP, que nos va a traducir esta entrevista nuevamente. Adalberto Cervantes Rodríguez, muy buenas tardes. ¿Qué tal estás? Bienvenido a CSIJuan.
¿Qué tal, Juan? De nueva cuenta por invitarme a tu programa. Traemos a invitado a Nancy Owens, que, bueno, tiene su canal de YouTube y, bueno, ha hecho diversos videos, al parecer tan impactantes como los que hace Alex Jones, inclusive en el número de visitas. Entonces es un privilegio que esté con nosotros, y bueno, y vamos a tener una audiencia bastante grande en Estados Unidos por ella.
Bueno, la verdad es que sí, tengo que agradecerte que hayas contactado a Nancy Ruth Owens, que es una persona que ha vivido, digamos, con estas elites, ¿no? Desde hace muchísimos años, y la historia de Nancy Ruth Owens es escalofriante porque lo que nos va a contar son datos de primera mano. Pues bueno, a través de Adalberto le va a dar la bienvenida a nuestra invitada. Adelante, Adalberto, cuando quieras darle la bienvenida a Nancy Ruth Owens.
Hello, Nancy. Thank you for being in the program in CSI Juan, and thank you for being here. And we're ready to start the program, Nancy.
Okay. Hi.
Yeah.
So,
Bien. Thank you so much, Nancy. You're welcome in this channel. Thank you so much. Bien, vamos a comenzar, ¿no? Vamos a preguntarle a Nancy cómo acabó entrando en estas redes de las élites donde tenían mercenarios, narcotraficantes y le ofrecieron, según ella ha contado en diferentes vídeos, algo que no era muy bueno. Pero bueno, ella nos los va a contar en exclusiva, de Alberto. Esta es la pregunta, que nos cuente cómo acabó metiéndose, ¿no?, en estos asuntos tan pliagudos, ¿no?, como es el tema de Pablo Escobar, ¿no?, etcétera.
Bueno, debemos de explicar previo de que es la media hermana de Obama, ¿ok? Y la que falsificó el acta de nacimiento del mismo, ¿no? First question of Juan, Nancy. How do you get involved with all these mercenaries or guerrillas, drug dealers, and even assassins in
oh,
the by the establishment, working for the establishment, even with the contact with Escobar? It has been.
yeah, okay. When I was a child, I went to Clewiston Elementary. Everybody tells you that Pablo Escobar lived in Colombia. He did not live in Colombia. He lived in my hometown of Clewiston, Florida. I went to Clewiston. Was cooking dinner at the time and I could smell it. And I don't know if I invited myself in or if he invited me in. So I went in and had, had a rice dinner, and it was, like I said, it was really good. The first dinner, the second day, I was walking by, and he was out there on the porch again. And this time, when we stopped to chat, when we were talking, it was a little more relaxed. He wasn't quite as angry. So, I think the first time I was invited in, and the second time I invited myself in. So he cooked up, cooked up another meal. This time when I ate it, it was, I didn't like it. I complained about it. The next thing I know is he got very angry. He pulled me into the bathroom. It was at that point I was molested by him. I'm guessing 10 years old. I don't remember if I was in the 4th grade or if I was in the 5th grade. When he was done, he took and he just threw me against the wall. And, I looked around and there was blood everywhere. So eventually I left the house. He wouldn't let me out of the door. I started to try to open up the door, and there was not, he couldn't lock it, but because I would yank on the door, and I could, he was on the other side holding the door, and the door would give a little bit. So at first he wouldn't let me out, and I'm not even sure how I got out. If I climbed out of the window, if he eventually let me out. When I did, I ran to the school. I got help, and at that point is when the sheriff's department was called. One name, if you have the name, if you're interested in Pablo Escobar, aka Pedro Escobar, you have to know another name, and that's the Sermon Dias Sr. And Sermon Dias Jr. So the Dias, you need to know the name Dias, because Pablo and Dias were really, really tight. So it was Sermon Dias who came and took the report. Sermon who took me home. He is the one who told my mother and my father, look, I wouldn't suggest having him arrested and having her testify, because she'll end up in court and she's, just basically, he was telling my parents I'm too young to go through that kind of trauma. So my parents agreed, and what happened is that all of the Hispanics that had moved into the community in the 70s were told to leave to the outskirts, which was Montura. Montura is like a subdivision in between Clewiston and LaBelle. So a week later, I quit going by Pablo's house, and eventually Sermon Dias Jr. came up. He pulled up in the patrol car beside me and told me, don't be afraid to go by the house. They're gone. Okay. I want you to start going back to walking where you normally walk. So I did. And within like 2 days, the sheriff picked me up. He took me out to Montura, where Pablo had just moved in, with his mother and father and some other members of the family. And Pablo ran from the house into the wooded, there's what we call the little mini cherry trees. They're humongous bushes. So this completely surrounded, almost completely surrounded the house. So Pablo ran out into the bushes. I was taken into the house, where I was molested again, this time by Pablo's father and by Sermon Dias Jr. So this was, throughout all of these events in my life, this was the secret that Sermon Dias Jr. was doing desperately to keep. He was trying to keep the truth from people in the community, most especially, Obama's Obama's great grandmother. We share a great grandmother. We share a grandmother. We share a father. So my great grandmother, businesswoman, educated, which is pretty rare. So he was trying to keep people from finding out the truth, and so that was in my opinion, that was his motivating factor of pulling everybody out of the community, all of the Hispanics. So I lived next door to Popeye Delgado, Chino Delgado, and Jaime. It's anyway, the Delgado family, which is you don't really hear too much about it except in the movie called Blow. That came out, I believe, in the 1990s with Johnny Depp in it. You don't hear the Delgado name unless you pay attention to that movie Blow. You'll hear Chino Delgado's name, but he certainly didn't have blue eyes. He was very, very muscular. So they were. This is the secret he kept. He worked on keeping, and this is the bond between Pablo, aka Pedro, and Sermon Dias Jr. So the mother, Mrs. Escobar, was not able to get transportation back into the elementary school, so she ended up losing her job after about a week. So that was the beginning of my relationship with Pablo.
Ok, ya antes de empezar a hacer bueno, no directamente una traducción, porque debo de decir que si hago esta traducción sin explicar anteriormente qué está pasando, ustedes van a ver que la historia que nos cuentan los medios de comunicación sobre Pablo Escobar difiere totalmente con lo que nos está diciendo nos está diciendo Owens, ¿no? Como tal, entonces sí. Nancy Owens. Lo que debo de mencionar es que Nancy Owens vive en una comunidad un tanto diferente a la común en Estados Unidos. Hay mucha situación de creación de asesinos internamente desde que eres pequeña, es el caso de Nancy, ¿ok? Y lógicamente en esa zona conoce a Pablo Escobar, ¿ok? Y que él le llama Pedro, o sea, no es su nombre, no es su nombre real. Por otro lado, en esta comunidad, ella estudiando como niña, conoce a una de las sobrinas de Pablo Escobar, y es su compañera de escuela, y constantemente la molestaban a ella porque tenía un cabello largo, ¿no? O sea, y eso nos menciona claramente Nancy Owens en esta situación. Hay muchos detalles de Nancy Owens, aprendiendo todas estas formas de asesinar. pues ella está cambiando la historia y por eso tiene ahorita muchos seguidores en los Estados Unidos, porque estamos viendo que hay más, que hay gente que se está despertando a todas estas diferentes historias y que lo ven más real, ¿no?
Claro, mira, Adalberto, antes de hacer la siguiente pregunta, para aquellos que no crean esto, tenemos una fotografía donde Nancy Ruth Owens estuvo presente el 30 de marzo de 1981, disculpar, voy a repetir la cuestión. Bien, Adalberto, tiene un pequeño lapsus, entonces voy a repetirme. Mira, aquellos que no crean esto, os va a dejar totalmente sorprendido lo que os voy a decir. Hay una fotografía de Nancy Ruth Owens en aquel fatídico día que casi se cargan a Ronald Reagan, el 30 de marzo de 1981, y aparece en el canal de National Geographic, ella siendo muy pequeña, y aparece ahí vigilando todo el escenario, ¿no? Bien, ella también hablaba, en lo que has comentado, Adalberto, sobre, bueno, Carlos Delgado, el clan Delgado también. Dice también, por ejemplo, esto es muy llamativo, ya que has hecho esta introducción tan buena. Dice, no, si es que yo no lo conocía como Pablo, lo conocía como Pedro Escobar. Entonces, sabemos, y según rumores, es que Pablo Escobar no era colombiano, era americano y que vivía en Estados Unidos, ¿no? Entonces, esto implica que hay mucha desinformación sobre la versión oficial de la muerte, de supuesta muerte, por decirlo así, de Pablo Escobar, pero según ella no muere justamente en el tejado, ¿no, Adalberto? O sea, para continuar con esta historia, ¿no? Pregúntale exactamente qué pasó el día que muere Pablo Escobar, porque realmente todo el mundo sabe que está muerto, pero aquí hay quien dice que no, que está vivo incluso, ¿no?
Sí, antes de hacerle la pregunta, debo de decir que en sus videos muestra claramente que forma parte de un grupo de asesinos trabajando para el establishment, trabajando para las elites, y entre muchas de sus muertes inclusive mencionan a Che Guevara, al Kennedy Jr., a Reagan, ¿ok? Es parte
Gorbachev.
del mismo grupo, entre otros, o sea, esto es impresionante. Y bueno, vamos a entrar al detalle de cómo muere Pablo Escobar. Nancy, can you tell us the next question of Juan is if you can explain us what happened in the murder of Pablo Escobar and how you were involved in this murder? Okay.
Oh, murder?
Yeah,
Uh,
Pablo
oh,
Escobar.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, when I was, my father kind of, he abandoned the family. So he did not, back then they didn't have child support. So if the man didn't send any money to take care of his children, you're just tough out of luck. So I was walking home from from high school, and I walked by a restaurant that there was a girlfriend, Jean Sis. She was working in there, and I saw her in there, and I was like, maybe I'd like to go in there and work. So I walked into the restaurant. I talked to Tony Toulis, who I found out later was a mafia underboss. Obviously I didn't know at the time that he was. I walked in there. Getting asked to check for my ID. He never checked for my ID. He just took my word. I was 18. I was hired on the spot. I went to work. I started serving drinks. I started working, in and out of the bar. I began to get began to know the it's a small town. Clewiston's a very small town with a population of about 4,000. But every town, every community has their elite. So I got to know a lot of these people, and what happened was my cousin. I was able to get in and out of bars. I would take my waitress uniform. I wouldn't go home and dress and put on regular clothes. I always went to the bar in my waitress uniform. So when they see your waitress uniform, it's automatic. You're 18, because you wouldn't be working for Tony Toulis if you were any younger than 18. So my ID was my waitress uniform, and I could get in all of the bars and just party with people, and I was having a ball. I was making money. I could feed myself at the restaurant. I could drink anywhere I wanted to. I could do pretty much whatever I wanted to.
But how was murder Pablo Escobar?
The murder of Pablo Escobar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That okay. There, like I said, during this time there were a lot of the murders, the attempted assassination of Reagan. So in 1983 to 1985, I went to Palm Beach Community College and studied journalism. From 1985 to 1988, I went to the University of Florida and was studying first advertising and then later creative writing. That's when a lot of the University of Florida Gainesville murders started taking place, and even after Pablo Escobar, I don't know if too many people are familiar with the murder of Tiffany Sessions in Gainesville. She's one of the 5 victims of the Gainesville Ripper, which is Danny Rawlings. So Alachua County raised the alarm by putting out to the newspapers, we have a serial killer in the community. And so I met the father of my children there when I went to Alachua County and I asked for help. They sent, a couple of, they sent 3 guys. The one who stayed, I eventually had 3 children with. So after the birth of my first child is when he kind of, I don't know why, but all of a sudden after 6 days after I'd had my baby by C-section, he decided he wanted to move to South Carolina, which is where his mother was living. So we went up there for 8 weeks. We came back through Florida, and that's when the hype about the Gainesville Ripper, the Gainesville University of serial killings, was all over the news. I mean, everybody was like just totally freaking out. We were with a woman who just was so really panicking. He's from Gainesville. I went to the University of Florida in Gainesville, so he grew up partially. It's I didn't, I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what was going on. Whatever was going on was not good, and this was, these things just were always happening. I mean, it was never ending. So he was tied to the bed, and at some point, because we used to play. I mean, he's Pablo can be a bad man, but when it comes to females, Pablo is not. He's he can be bad when he does assassinations. When he can mutilate bodies, take their breasts and what have you, do whatever the client is asking. So he could do this, but I didn't really have a really. There wasn't a whole lot of violence between him and I. Very, very little, and I'm not even sure if I can recall if there ever was any violence. So, I've jumped on him on his lap before in play, and so this is what I did. That was my first instinct, was to kind of diffuse the situation by jumping on his lap, and he got very angry, and so at some point, my memories are a little cloudy at this point. At some point, I went to the mirror that was in the room, and like I said, had told you before, there was this really huge ball of rubber bands. And so I took a bunch of these rubber bands and started tying my hair up, because I was just trying to gather my thoughts, trying to figure out, why is he tied to the bed? What's going on? Who's got him here? Who else is in this building? It looked to me like they might be fixing to do some sort of an interrogation. And I had been through interrogations with George Bush, Clinton, and there's a couple other faces in the White House I recognize. So it looked to me like it was fixing to turn into a interrogation, possibly a torture session. So I had gone back to him and just, I don't know, exactly, there's things that are really hard to remember. I can't remember when exactly I had jumped on his lap, if I got onto his lap again, maybe. But I do remember him getting really, really angry, and I yelled to somebody, who was one of the Hell's Angels that was there, you need to give me a knife, because if after the guy handed me the knife, I reached up underneath his rib cage. Well, no, first I tried to cut his diaphragm, and that would not cut even with the sharp knife. I mean, it was a really big butcher knife. I tried to cut the diaphragm, and when that didn't work, I knew that I don't have all day to do this. So that's when I took and I reached under and I grabbed his heart, and I started cutting the chambers, and then it was the hardest part was working on the back side of his heart, but eventually it all came loose. And at some point, like I said before, I just at some point I just went a little on the crazy side, and started pulling his guts out and just kind of started stringing them around the room like Christmas lights. So that was the murder of Pablo Escobar. In 1993 is when they claim that, presumably under Bill Clinton, that is when Pablo was killed, and that's just not the case. So I don't know who ordered to have Pablo tied up in the bed. I'm not really sure where the order came. So after this, but before all, that's what happened. Before all of this happened, after I was asked, do you know this guy? I said no. And after that, I was taken to another room where I said yes to Pablo. I said, yes, I know him. And they said, well, how do you know him? I said, well, everybody in town knows Pablo, which is true. Everybody knows Pablo. If you say no, that you don't know who Pablo is, that's going to be suspicious. So I was taken about 4 rooms down, and in the second room, Roberto was tied up to the bed, and I was asked, do you know him? Do you know Roberto Escobar? And I said no, and they accepted that answer. And so that's when I was taken back to Pablo, and I think that might be when I jumped on his lap. So, like I said, all of this is like, when I did this, I just kind of assumed that the way I lived with Pablo and Rivy and Griselda and Popeye is how everybody lived. To me that was normal. So I wanted to get a photograph of Pablo. I mean, this is what you do when you make your kill. You better come back with some kind of proof. You come back with a leg. They don't like you to come back with arms. You come back, if it's a female, you come back with a breast. You come back with a head, or you come back with a photograph, or you come back with a movie. They're not going to just, people are not just going to accept that you saying, well, I killed so-and-so. They're just not going to accept it. So I wanted to take a photograph of Pablo at that time, and the father of my child, I said, let's get a photograph. Let's put the baby in the picture. Let's put the car seat. We had the car seat, or we had one of the carriers, and I put the carrier in between Pablo's legs, because keep in mind his legs were spread. I put the baby carrier in there with the intention of putting my baby in between and getting a picture, because I was told by Pablo that I can't have children. Okay, you got to understand.
But you have the picture?
No. I wanted to, but see, this is when you're dealing with Americans. Americans are, I wanted to get a picture. No, wait a minute. There was a picture taken. There might be a picture taken. So what I wanted was a picture taken with the baby in there, and the father of my child said no, and he walked away, and I was like, whoa, okay. This is not good, Okay. So I think there might have been a picture taken at that time. I know I wanted to.
Yeah, I hope that you can find the picture. Okay.
I don't have it. I don't have the picture.
Let me translate, because this is a lot of detail. Bueno, antes de explicar toda esta situación, o sea, tenemos que recordar que seguramente La situación de la forma en que muere Pablo Escobar, si ustedes ven la historia, es totalmente diferente, ¿no? Y esas las contradicciones que hacen que la popularidad de Nancy crezca, porque si bien recordamos, acorde con las fuentes oficiales, Pablo Escobar muere en Colombia después de haber sido perseguido y encuentran una llamada telefónica, etcétera, pero no nos suena nada real, o sea, es más bien como de película de Hollywood. Y eso es lo que hace que la versión de Nancy sea más realista, ¿no? O sea, no, Nancy forma parte de un grupo de asesinos, ¿ok? Como dije anteriormente, en contra y soportando al establishment, en donde Pablo Escobar forma parte como una cabeza importante protegida por los Bush. O sea, Nancy trabaja con Pablo Escobar por mucho tiempo, lo conoce a nivel inclusive familiar, como ya dijimos anteriormente, y forma parte de sus asesinos. O sea, tienen varios. En el caso diferente al super soldado, entre ellos sí se conocen, entre ellos sí hay intercambio de información, no es a nivel individual ni se sigue por un comando de órdenes militares, sino en este caso vienen directamente de Pablo Escobar, en donde lo protege totalmente Bush Jr. principalmente, ¿ok? La forma en que dice que matan a Pablo Escobar es básicamente lo tienen atado a una cama, ¿ok? Está sumamente furioso por lo anterior. Ella llega de repente a ese cuarto llevado ya sea por amistades, familiares, inclusive su propio esposo, etcétera, y se encuentra con la situación que hay que matar a Pablo Escobar porque está sumamente furioso y eso va a desencadenar que la maten a ella, a su hija, al esposo y bueno, y mientras que está atado con un guarura sumamente fuerte, o sea, porque lógicamente lo tienen atrapado en la cama, pero también aseguran que no se vaya, ¿ok? Y Nancy hace lo que yo diría que haría un MK Ultra, aunque ella no reconoce que es un MK Ultra, aunque sí le dan toques y una serie de cuestiones para salir de toda esta situación realmente que sobrepasa la imaginación. Eso lo van a encontrar en varios de sus videos, o sea, en una entrevista ahorita es muy difícil decir todo, pero bueno, eso es de tarea para ustedes. Queremos
Pero,
irnos a lo fundamental, las
sí.
contradicciones que hay. Ella le dan un cuchillo y simplemente mata y va quitándole cada uno de los órganos a Pablo Escobar, corazón, etcétera, llegando al punto de sacar una foto que hacen estos asesinos porque tienen que tener pruebas de que efectivamente mataron a la persona, ¿no? Entonces pueden tomar un pie, pueden tomar alguna parte. En este caso ella quería tomar una foto y no le fue permitido por su esposo. Seguramente estaba en esta situación de orden. Recuperan
Vale.
totalmente del MK Ultra, todavía lo tienen y sin embargo, o sea, estamos hablando de que ella tuvo contacto desde la infancia con Pablo Escobar.
Sí, eso sí,
E
eso.
incluso,
Además, sí, Adalberto, perdón.
inclusive hay visitas de presidentes, etcétera. O sea, estamos hablando de las élites que les han puesto MK Ultra, como Hugo Chávez, como el propio Evo Morales posiblemente, etcétera, que están relacionados, que sabemos que estaban relacionados con la parte del narcotráfico y que iban directamente con los Bush, pero hay traiciones, etcétera, inclusive Fidel Castro, ¿no? Entonces, estamos viendo está descubriendo toda esta situación de los asesinos de presidentes, etcétera, que es muy diferente al del supersoldado en el caso de Holly, porque en este caso trabajan para las élites que se dedican a los negocios ilegales de los Illuminati, como narcotráfico, tráfico de niños, tráfico de órganos, rituales satánicos, hay canibalismo.
Exacto.
O sea, imagínense lo peor de lo peor, ¿no? Y realmente, o sea, Nancy sobresale como una de las principales asesinas, ¿no? Ujú.
Claro, además, por lo que hemos podido entender, lo podemos decir así claramente, es que desde muy pequeña a ella la introduce, le hacen lo que es lo típico, la captación a través de una persona que es la Gancho, que es esta persona, que es familia de Pablo Escobar, pero realmente, según ella, se llama Pedro Escobar. Bien, lo importante aquí, además que han resaltado muchas ocasiones con que Pablo Escobar, bueno, pues iba mucho a Estados Unidos. Hay una fotografía que está posando con su niño enfrente de la Casa Blanca. Entonces, por ahí sí podemos enlazar el clan Bush, Clinton y otros clanes, ¿no? No olvidemos que incluso entra el ámbito de la pedocriminalidad, ¿no? Quería preguntar a través de ti, Adalberto, hacia Nancy, porque esto es una exclusiva, pero de primera división. Bien, la CIA y la DEA supuestamente lo buscaron, ¿no? Entre el año 92 y 93. Que ella nos aclare exactamente punto por punto, porque esto es muy, muy espeluznante, todo lo que está diciendo. Incluso ha dicho cómo realizó el acto. Es que recordarlo ya es escalofriante. ¿Por qué se montó todo este operativo de falsa bandera, de flow false, para buscar cuando en verdad Pablo Escobar estaba en Estados Unidos? Porque también ella dice que Pablo Escobar es americano, no colombiano. Que nos aclare todo esto. ¿Cuál es el montaje aquí realmente? ¿A quién estuvieron beneficiando? ¿A los Bush, a los Clinton o a quién exactamente?
Nancy, who was the beneficiary of this cover up with Pablo Escobar? Because, as you said, he was an American. But who was the beneficiary to say that he was a Colombian, that he was located in Colombia? Maybe some kind of, clone, maybe some kind of double, okay? But anyway, someone has to be the beneficiary of stealing this identity theft of Pablo Escobar in explaining other situations that are not really true, according with you. Who was the really beneficiary? The Bush, the Clintons?
The first one that I am aware of is Anthony Toulis. The second one that I'm aware of are the Dias family, the sheriff and the sheriff's son. The third one that I am aware of is George Bush, and the later I lived in Conway, Arkansas, which is north, like 12. Um, I knew certain people in the White House were involved. So I went in there just like hoping I could get somebody else to take a look at what was going on and maybe give me some assistance, which was Bill Clinton, and it did not turn out that way. So that's when Bill Clinton became involved. Certain people, like I said, I recognize a lot of people from the White House. So who's the beneficiary? Probably everybody in the White House. Certainly not me. You
Sí,
know?
mira,
Sure.
de acuerdo con
So
los
yeah.
videos que ha hecho Nancy, acorde con lo que nos está diciendo, se envuelve a mucha gente, empezando por el sheriff de la zona esta de Florida y obviamente se han beneficiado Bill Clinton, los Bush, como confirma lo que ya se está conociendo en los medios recientemente, porque esto no ha sido de hace mucho tiempo, que efectivamente los Bush están envueltos en la cuestión del narcotráfico y bueno, y ahorita que los Clinton con la situación de, de la pedofilia y la cuestión de niños. Sabemos que inclusive, según ella misma nos cuenta, Pablo Escobar tenía bunkets, o sea, túneles, y sabemos que
Bunkers.
sí, tenía bunkets, sí.
¿Qué
Este,
es? ¿Qué es bunkers?
Bunker.
el
Oh,
bunker,
Bunker.
¿no?
bunker. Okay,
Ya,
okay.
Underground base. Bases underground. Bases
Bunkers.
subterráneas.
sí,
Bunkers.
Okay.
Sí.
con túneles. Entonces ella prácticamente nos hace una cuestión más real de lo que nos han contado con respecto a Pablo Escobar en Colombia, o sea, se relaciona más. Sabemos de acuerdo también a lo que he encontrado, es que los Skull Bonds están muy relacionados, este Gortar y todos los presidentes prácticamente de México relacionados con los Cobol, y tenemos el caso de Estados Unidos con los Bush. Entonces, inclusive Caro Quinteros, ustedes recuerdan este narcotraficante que mató a un personaje importante de la DEA, también vive en la misma zona que vive Nancy Owens, que vive Pablo Escobar. Entonces, si ustedes ven, ha sido toda una serie de mentiras, pero bueno, Nancy Owens destapa esto en una forma más realística y nos muestra realmente que estas personas existieron en esa región, inclusive llama
Sí.
a la policía, a los agentes del FBI en cuestión de destapar toda la situación del acta de nacimiento de Obama y entregándose ella misma a las autoridades. Y las autoridades no le hacen nada, ¿no? O sea, están protegidos totalmente estos
Sí.
asesinos, digamos directamente, y de la justicia. Entonces no los investigan, hacen el cover up. Sabemos que los policías en Estados Unidos más bien están protegiendo sus vidas porque ponerse de frente directamente con este grupo de asesinos de las élites, o sea, es la muerte para cualquier policía o sheriff, me imagino.
Claro,
Entonces nadie
por
se va a
supuesto.
arriesgar, obviamente. Entonces es lo mismo
Exacto.
que pasa con los agentes del FBI. Y bueno, ha tenido una serie de protecciones, Nancy, pero pues bueno, para nosotros ahorita para saber al menos la verdad y qué es y coincide totalmente con lo que ha hecho, o sea, suena más real que una situación de cacharlo con teléfono, así, y una persona
Pero
huyendo o sea, no es creíble, ¿no?
no, pero vamos a ver, esto es muy serio porque también hablaba de Arkansas, del tema de Mena. Este tema lo recuerdo perfectamente, ¿no? Donde hablaban de narcotráfico, personas que han muerto y luego la ejecución de Vince Foster. Vince Foster, que era el amante de Hillary Clinton, ¿no? Hay una serie de benefactores donde dicen que hay cadáveres en el armario de la Casa Blanca. Y aquí hay algo que totalmente sorprende. Si todo esto que nos está diciendo ahora mismo es todo cierto, ¿no? Porque, a ver, no lo digo por mi parte, yo sí que me lo creo, pero eso no es una cuestión para que todo el mundo se lo crea, ¿no? Es decir, esto cambia totalmente la historia del siglo XXI, ¿no? Porque también ella ha hablado de Gorbachev, ¿no? Este ex primer ministro, presidente de la Unión Soviética, ¿no? Lo que pasa es que en Inglaterra el presidente del gobierno es primer ministro, ¿no? ¿Qué más da decir primer ministro o presidente, ¿no? Pero mira, antes que pasemos a la siguiente
O con
pregunta,
Gaddafi.
al líder dólares colombianos. Y a lo posible era el doble, ¿no? Supuestamente el doble, ¿no? Bien, vamos a la siguiente pregunta. Antes mencioné el tema del atentado de Reagan, ¿no? Que fue el 30 de marzo de 1981, ahora sí que lo he dicho correctamente, 69 días después de que Reagan fuese presidente, ¿no? Bien, aquí ocurre lo siguiente, y Nancy, que nos explique qué sucedió ese día, ¿no? Porque esto es otro tema donde ella aparece hasta con una fotografía, ahí sí que tenemos las pruebas. Bien, sucede así, a su salida de una conferencia en el Washington Hilton Hotel, en Washington, D.C., fue herido con el arma revólver ROM RG-14 a manos de John Hinckley Jr., hijo de John Hinckley Sr. John Hinckley era amigo de los Bush, y el hermano de Hinckley Jr. era también miembro del Partido Republicano, o sea que habían regalos de dinero. Preguntan exactamente.
Y también era
que nos
parte
cuente,
de los asesinos que pertenece Nancy. Okay, Nancy, next question of Juan. What do you do exactly same day than when Ronald Reagan was shot to be killed? I mean, we know that he was leaving a hotel. And what can you tell us about this particular situation with Ronald Reagan? How you were involved?
That picture, there's a picture on the internet of the hotel, okay? That's, okay, Anthony Toulis had accepted a contract to kill President Reagan. He gave me a gun and he said, I'm going to, we're going to have a driver, and this driver is going to take you to do the assassination of Ronald Reagan. And keep in mind, see, the problem at that time, the motivation for killing Ronald Reagan was, okay, women were saying, when do we get our rights to become a president? Because if you go back to the history of the 1980s, you could not be a president unless you had been military. Well, if they don't allow you to be in the military, how can you ever be president? And even today, they're just now opening up. There's 16 military positions that women are not allowed to be in. Okay, so we are still, even though they put out these pretty pictures of women with guns and tanks and all that, we're still not on equal footing as far as military. So Ronald Reagan was an actor. Okay, he was behind a camera. He was military, but not military. He was going to be he's the one that was to open up the door for women to eventually apply for the president. Whole family. So they chose John Hinckley Jr., aka Mark Chapman, and he's even got a third name. I can't remember the third name right now. Now, he lived across from Abel Danger, John Benet's father. John Hinckley Jr. lived across the street from John Benet's daddy. Okay, right across John Benet's daddy. See, all these stories are, again, a small group of people, not blown up like they tell you. So John Hinckley, Mark Chapman was going to do it. You know, he was at the bar, this bar that I was telling you about that I started working at. He was at the bar, and it was go up there and just make him feel manly, if you know what I'm saying, seduce him into becoming a part of this. So John Hinckley was back and forth. Sometimes he was in and ready to do it. Sometimes he was out. Sometimes he was in. Sometimes he was out. And that's when George Bush came in and said, you know, look, we've got to do this. We've got to assassinate Ronald Reagan. So it was the driver, Linda, who was also the driver for the Hoffa kill, me and John Hinckley Jr. John Hinckley Jr. sat in the back passenger side, and on the way up, I'm not even sure where it was. On the way up, I was drinking my whiskey and whiskey and Coke, because I didn't want to go. Some of these things you just don't go in sober. You don't go in cold sober on, especially if you're going to kill this president. You want to have a little bit of a buzz going on. So I was drinking. We got to the place, which is not in front of the door. Like I said, be careful with these newspaper articles. They will put out pictures that are not true, but they're part of another assassination, because they got them all scrambled up. The only people who are going to know what picture goes where and what killing goes where are the people who are actually there. So I got there. Mark and I got out of the car. We went to, there was a crowd of people. Eventually the crowd of people, you could hear them all saying, here comes the president, here, he's coming. And Mark Hinckley was, he was moving forward into the crowd, trying to get through. He was at my 10 o'clock. And so we got a little bit separated by about 2 or 3 people. And he looked back at me, and I told him, I said, just go, because, basically, because if you wait, you're not, and you don't get to the front of these people who are starting to crowd in, you're not going to get a good shot. So I started hearing him take shots over there. And like I said, this is the funny part for me, is that, everybody started to drop. I don't remember it, because my first shot was up in the air over everybody's head, and I'm not sure if that's when they dropped or when John Hinckley Jr. was shooting. I think it was when John Hinckley was shooting. So the first shot was up in the air. Second shot came down, and he's still shooting over here. And so, like I said, there was this crowd of people. I couldn't even see anything. And then all of a sudden it was boom, everybody's down, and I got a clear shot. There's nothing in the way. So he's getting into the car. He's being put in the car, and the driver, the car, and the gap of the door is about this wide. And see, at this point, I'm not sure if I took aim at that spot. I just remember the gap where they were pushing him in. I think, he supposedly was shot under the ribs. I might have aimed. Like I said, some of these things, the memories are there, but some of them are blank. I still have like gaps in my memory. So what happened is I just left. I started back. I walked backwards, and they say grassy knoll, John Kennedy Jr., grassy knoll. No, there was if I recall, there was a grassy knoll at where President Reagan was. So I walked back, and I remember, I'm pretty sure I was on grass, and it had like an incline like a 1 foot incline. And when I got there to go get into the car with Linda, when I got into the car with Linda, she said, "Where's Mark?" And I was like, "They caught him. They caught him. We've got to get out of here. There's nothing we can do." And they hadn't caught him. I was just like, I abandoned him. I left him there at the scene. So I mean, you just got to go by. You can't plan these things out. You just got to go with what your gut's telling you at the time. And my gut was saying, just leave him. I had to get in the car with Linda. So I got in there. She and I took off, and the alarm was like really, really quick because we went only like a block. And I don't know. I don't know if I told her, "Look, there's a road to get out of here. Make a right into that road," or if she did that on her own. But here we're turning into this little road, and it's one of those roads where you've only got like 25-30 feet before you have a railroad track. Well, here comes a train. Sure enough, here comes a train. And so they gave the cops plenty of time. Eventually we were stopped. A cop pulled up, and he asked Linda for her driver's license. Well, she handed over her driver's license, and he asked me for mine, and I said, "Well, I don't have it." And back then it wasn't a crime if you didn't have a driver's license. They couldn't just pull you up and yank you and put you in jail because you didn't have your ID on. So we were released, and he was saying, "Well, the president's just been shot," or something like that. And we're like, "Really? Oh my God! Wow!" So, So eventually he didn't stay with us long, and we were cut loose, and we headed back to Clewiston without Mark Chapman.
Ok, muy bien. Ok,
Yeah.
y mira lo que nos está explicando de nuevo ahí Nancy es que ha visto las fotografías de la entrada, etcétera, que posiblemente pudieran ser manipuladas y viniendo de otro tipo de asesinato en esa zona, ¿no? Bueno, pero la cuestión es que son transportados por un chofer que ya había participado en otros tipos de asesinatos, como el de Hoffa, y lleva tanto al tirador que fue el que agarran en el caso este de Donald Reagan, iba con Nancy. Los dos tiran directamente bueno, Nancy dice que tira hacia arriba, ¿ok? Y mira, yo pienso que hay mucha gente envuelta porque tú sabes que la seguridad de presidentes, van francotiradores y otros, o sea, se ve que totalmente todo está planeado para que ellos hagan el asesinato y bueno, y como ustedes saben, pues ya el resto de la historia, o sea, agarran al tirador inicial que iba con ella, pero ella escapa porque una de sus amigas le avisa que ya agarraron a esta persona, entonces escapan, inclusive la policía, una patrulla los llega a alcanzar y revisa sus documentos, sus ID, sus identificaciones y les dice el policía que acaban de tirar al presidente, etcétera, y bueno, y los deja ir, ¿no? O sea, ellas simplemente decían que no sabían nada, ¿no? Entonces,
investigador me habló de una operación que era financiada por la CIA. Bush y Nixon estaban implicados. Se llama la Operación 40, de Operation 14. Este grupo de mercenarios cubanos que trajeron desde Cuba a Estados Unidos son los que asesinan a JFK con la implicación de Bush, Nixon, porque se ha publicado que George Bush Sr. fue interrogado el mismo día del asesinato de JFK, cuando era presidente,
Sí,
¿no? Que lo
también dice que
asesinaron
hay
en
grupos
Dallas.
en México, sí, sí, sí. Hay grupos
Claro,
también
pero
de la CIA de México. Los cubanos,
el,
tú sabes que todo empieza en México, ¿no? Con Fidel Castro. Y sí, hay
con
grupos que
Cuba,
se mencionan también de mexicanos. O sea, todo esto ha sido totalmente encubierto, ¿no?
no, pero Nancy, lo que me sorprende es la cantidad de datos que tiene. Además, los datos que tiene nos revela sobre que ha conocido a asesinos en serie, de serial killers, ¿no? Como Henry Lee Lucas, Otis Toole y otros más, ¿no? Y entonces, cuando analizamos el asesinato... Ah, ok, no problem.
I'll be right back. Okay.
Ok, vamos a esperar un momento. De mientras voy a mirar el teléfono y repetimos esta cuestión. No pasa nada. Voy a mirar el móvil. Pero se ha afirmado que hay nombres, ¿no? Incluso el hijo de un ex policía que investigó la muerte de Dahlia Negra, de Black Dahlia, esta chica, Elizabeth Short, que murió en Los Ángeles hace muchísimos años, en la época de la Segunda Guerra Mundial, pues se dice que el que mató a Elizabeth Short es el asesino del Zodíaco. Esto ocurrió en la década finales de los 60, entre el año 1968 y el año 1969. En una de las cartas, el asesino del Zodiaco había confesado que había matado a más de 37 víctimas, pero oficialmente se encontraron 7 víctimas. Y todo esto ocurría en la zona de San Francisco. Es curioso que en la entrevista que le realicé a Douglas Dietrich nos dijo que sospechaba que el asesino del Zodiaco era miembro de la secta satánica de Michael Aquino, que se llamaba la secta El Templo de Set. Era también militar, ¿no? Sorprendentemente, el asesino del Zodíaco por las pisadas y huellas que se encontraron en una de las escenas del crimen. Bien, Adalberto, la pregunta es, ella conoció a Zodiac, que nos cuente esto en exclusiva. ¿Qué datos nos puede ofrecer? Adelante, Adalberto. Esa es la cuestión.
Nancy, Juan was explaining something about a guy who is Zodiac, the Zodiac, okay?
Killer.
The Zodiac killer. Do you have contact with him?
I don't know who the Zodiac killer is. I mean, you know, it could be George Bush. It could be Daddy Bush. You know, because I've racked my brain trying to figure out, is there a connection between the Zodiac killer and the Reagan killing? That's why I'm asking, do you know something that would prompt you to ask about the Zodiac killing right after the Reagan killing? Because I'm wondering if it,
No,
maybe
okay.
you know.
This guy was working in San Francisco. Juan, you say
Zodiac, the murders, it happened in San Francisco.
yeah,
Los
the
asesinatos,
murders happens in San Francisco.
Vallejo, Venecia, en otros lugares, pero siempre en la zona de San Francisco, donde actuaba este Zodiac.
He's surrounding the San Francisco.
To the best of my knowledge, I don't know who the Zodiac killer is.
No, he doesn't.
No, I don't
sabe
know.
quién es el...
Pero le pasó que alguien le dijo, yo soy Zodiac, ¿no? Según ha estado contando.
But do you know someone someone told you about that he was the Zodiac?
Killer.
No, not that I can recall. No,
Juan.
No, I was told I'm the kaleidoscope killer at the same time that Rivy was given another name. I was told I was the kaleidoscope killer, but I don't know who might be the Zodiac killer. I don't know.
Ok, bien, vamos a la otra cuestión. Vamos a continuar hablando, ¿no? Sobre
Entonces,
Sí,
ujú.
pero entonces, perdona, Alberto, ¿Gaddafi está envuelto o estuvo implicado en rituales? O sea, que nos llega a especificar más esto, Nancy. Gracias.
Nancy, can you explain or give us more detail about Gaddafi involved with this situation of children and others?
It was during the time I worked for Anthony Toulis off and on for several years. And it was during these early years between 1979 and like 1980, 82, 81, 82, that I was taken by plane, and I'm pretty sure it was with Anthony Toulis, to another country, and it was, see, when Toulis would take me and by plane, they'd spin the plane around. They wouldn't do a straight shot. You know what I'm saying? They don't let you know exactly what direction you're going in. So I was taken, and I thought I was trying to calculate where this plane was going, and I thought for years it was in Central and South America, but when I started reading the 911 Commission report, it started describing, talking about the dollhouse and Gaddafi, and I started seeing pictures of Gaddafi, and that's when I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's the guy that owned the building where I was taken, and he had, children, young children tied up to the wall, and I was chained to not tied up, but chained. He had chains. I was chained on the left-hand side along with another very young American boy. He might have been about 9, 10, 11 years old. And across the building was a slightly older female, young still. She might have been 13 or 14. So Gaddafi, I was there for a while, and then Gaddafi came in, and then there was a pentagram in the middle of the room, and I was taken and laid. At first, I was laid north of the pentagram, and whoever the men who were there were saying, no, 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 you have to get her on the pentagram. You have to get her on the pentagram. So I was put on the pentagram, and that's when there was sex, and with sex, rape, whatever you want to call it, and with Gaddafi, like I said, he is like, he's not human. I felt like I could have been a pillow the way I was treated. It was like there was no concern about my legs were up over my head, and it was like there's no concern at all for my discomfort. I mean, I'm scared, but above and beyond being scared,
Bueno, ella nos cuenta de que la llevaron por avión a un lugar que no conocía, pero bueno, al parecer ya con fotos y otro tipo de situaciones se identificó que era algún tipo de residencia de Gaddafi, en donde la violaron, la violó Gaddafi, y este tipo de situación fue tratada como un objeto en una violación hecha con un pentagrama, inclusive
Pentagram.
un pentagrama, sí, o sea, mientras que nos cuenta también que había por lo menos identificó dos americanos atados, niños, entre 11 y 13 años, una niña y un niño, atados a las paredes, encadenados, ok, entonces esa es su experiencia personal con la situación de Gaddafi. Sabemos que pues también estaba relacionada a Hillary Clinton. Sabemos que Hillary Clinton pues es básicamente la que planea la muerte de Gaddafi, ¿no? O sea, si ustedes ven todas estas relaciones, o sea, pues se conocen bien, es el mismo caso que Hugo Chávez, ¿no? Se conoce bien con Bush, o sea, porque pues, Hugo Chávez
Sí.
iba a las reuniones que tenían estos grupos de asesinos, digámoslo así, ¿no?
Esto es sorprendente, ¿no? Porque en todo caso sabemos que los líderes políticos son partícipes de estos rituales y esto es muy fuerte, esto es muy serio y hay que tratar esto con mucha delicadeza, ¿no? Si hablamos de este tipo de rituales de pentagramas y toda la historia, ya estamos entrando en lo que se llama el underground, ¿no? El tema snap movies, mercado negro, etcétera. Pues ahora vamos a pasar a un tema también, como bloque final, de esta primera parte, ¿no? Vamos a hablar del asesinato ritual de John Bennett Ramsey, que fue asesinada, según datos policiales, en Boulder, Colorado, en el año 1996. Era una niña que era modelo, que el supuesto padre, ¿no? Era miembro según dicen algunos, del Partido Republicano, que era una especie de personaje del gobierno en la sombra. Y este crimen sabemos que no lo han hecho los padres de John Bennett, lo han hecho otro tipo de personas, aunque los padres de John Bennett, supuestos padres entre comillas, entregan a la niña a un pastor, según dicen, un pastor que está involucrado con actividades ritualísticas. Y bueno, ella tiene una información también muy interesante a comentar y ya con esto cerramos la entrevista de hoy, que ha sido muy interesante, ¿no? Adalberto, todo tuyo, para que puedas realizar la última cuestión.
¿Y cuál es la pregunta con John Bennett?
Sí, de John Bennett, lo que te he dicho, que John Bennett Ramsey fue asesinada en el año 96 y está envuelto varios miembros importantes de las elites. Y no solo eso, el padre de John Bennett, el supuesto padre, era miembro del gobierno en la sombra. Esto lo menciona Kay Griggs, que era mujer de Josh Griggs, que era un coronel muy importante vinculado a la NATO, ¿no? Que es la OTAN.
Nancy, do you know John Bennett?
Okay. Mark Chapman, we did Reagan. We did another one that might have been John Hinckley Jr. After this, I started to develop a lot of interest in Mark Chapman. I mean, he was very professional, and I started to really, really like him on a much deeper level. So we began fight inside it got a little more heated, and just he really, it was at that point that I pulled a gun out and I shot him and I killed him. Okay. John Hinckley has been dead since shortly after the Reagan shooting. Okay, he's been dead many, many, many years. He hasn't been in a nut house. He's in a grave. Okay, he hasn't been in a nut house.
Well,
He he
who killed
did
him?
he didn't just get out of prison. All right, that's all. Now that the things are coming out, that's when they want to throw the Mark Chapman, John Hinckley. Oh, he's just now getting out of prison. No, he's been dead. He's been dead all these years. So what happened was, Abel Danger, the one who does the Abel Dangers, has a daughter. She saw Mark and I fighting, and she knew that Mark Chapman was found dead not too long after that. So she threatened me. She says, I went to the house. I was brought to the house by Sermon Dice Jr. She told me she was on her bed and she was studying for law. She says, I know that you were over there, and that you are the one who killed Mark Chapman. She said, and I'm going to go to the authorities. And I was like, really? And I tried to talk to her to say, no, you don't do that. You don't understand the situation I'm in. This is very complex. This is military happenings. This is a ground guerrilla war that nobody wants to acknowledge, because they don't want to make people angry for the cocaine, because if they start coming down and say, no, 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 you're a bad guy, then the people who run the cocaine will say, no, 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 you can't have our coke. Okay. So when I was threatened by her and she wouldn't listen, I turned around in her room and she had a bookshelf of things, and I found something to kill her with. I killed her there, and when I left, my hand was covered in blood. I walked past the one as Field McConnell, Abel Danger. I walked past him and was trying to make sure that he didn't see any of the blood on me. And I got outside. I heard him say, did y'all settle your differences? And I turned around and I put my hand on the door, not thinking. I put my hand on the door and I looked at him. I says, yes, we've settled it, And he said, good. And I left, and then I saw, I pulled my hand back and I saw that there was a bloody handprint on his door, and I was like, oh my God. So I was trying to rub it, and I got to the car really, really quickly before he could discover that, go to the bedroom and find out that his daughter was dead. So it was, see, you got to understand, John Hinckley Jr.'s dad, and this is what they tell you in the tabloids. They have a different picture, but they tell you in the tabloids that John Hinckley Jr.'s dad was involved in a lot of things, that his hands aren't clean. So he's also the one that, like I said, there was a conflict with the airlines given a bonus, and his other daughter was used as a collateral. So this is why, when it comes to the true story of Russian intel. Yes, he is. He is using Russian information that maybe he didn't exactly get it directly from the Russians, but he got it because of the Russian invasion of the early 1980s when, again, Reagan kind of stood back when there was an internal war between the FBI and the newly developed DEA, when there was an internal war between Bush and Reagan. So, just a lot of internal, within the White House itself, a lot of internal conflict because everybody's trying to grab that, cocaine money but not get caught. It's still going on today. It's, we are America. If the stories are true that the NSA is trying to kill FBI agents and Donald Trump, you still have that internal war going on. Some people want this exposed because apparently it might be connected to 911. Some people want it hidden. They want to keep it hidden. Now, how could it possibly be connected to 911? Well, as I told you in earlier shows, we bombed the Space Shuttle Challenger in 1986. Okay, there was no accident there. So, it's apparently all of this is and you have to understand that 911 isn't just the moment that the Twin Towers were bombed and fell. 911 goes back decades when you had Americans calling up the government, calling up the FBI and saying, help us, help us, help us. And FBI either couldn't because they were murdered off or couldn't because there were people in the White House who were busy getting that cocaine money. We haven't had true 911. We haven't had 911 since the 1970s, at least the late 1970s. There is no 911 for us. There's no 911. It's no surprise that someone's able to bomb the Twin Towers and shoot, do shootouts in Fort Lauderdale Airport and, bomb the Space Shuttle Challenger, bomb bridges, all of this stuff. There's an internal American war.
Okay.
And it's,
Sí.
Okay. La situación es que al parecer se cruza en el caso que mencionas, Juan, se cruza una niña, que es lo peor que puede hacer alguien, ¿no? Y empieza a amenazar de que va a ir a la policía, etcétera. O sea, es que eso no se dice y pues lo dijo enfrente de Nancy y pues Nancy tuvo que matarla, ¿no? Aparte pues ya hay otras muertes colaterales, como ella le habla, como ella le llama.
Sí.
Y bueno, y ha tratado de darnos cuál es su visión sobre otras situaciones que pasan, que a lo mejor pudiera haber estado ella envuelta si regresara, ¿no? Pero afortunadamente está retirado, ¿no? Porque es muy buena en toda esta situación de asesinatos, pero bueno. Pues este es un primer programa con Nancy. Thank you very much for being with us, Nancy.
Okay.
I hope to
Thank you
to
very
have
much.
you soon with us. We would like to have pictures and others if you have it to show them to the Juan public. Okay. Anyway, Juan, pues ya le agradecí a Nancy que estuviera en el programa. Bueno, posiblemente la invitaremos en otra ocasión con fotografías y todo esto, pero bueno, lo que queremos con el público es que se entere de toda esta situación de videos que ha hecho Nancy, explicando otra realidad que desconocíamos y que a mí me suena más plausible, más sencilla, es mucho más sencilla explicar las situaciones de todos estos asesinos que están relacionados con las élites y con el narcotráfico y con todos estos negocios ilegales de los Illuminati, ¿no?
Claro, Adalberto, pero antes de que cerremos, ¿no?
Sí.
También ha mencionado el 11S,
Sí,
también, por ejemplo,
septiembre.
pero hay una publicación de un tal Evil Danger que habla sobre que John Bennett hay como una snuff movie, un snuff film. O sea, pregúntale eso antes que cerremos, lo de la snuff film. Eso exactamente, porque...
Do you understand, Nancy, what Juan is telling you?
Un poquito,
Okay.
sí.
Un poquito. dice que,
Pues,
que el padre de John Bennett no es el padre de John Bennett. Entonces, que nos especifique ese detalle, porque algo nos
do you
hemos...
know, besides what you understand, do you know what happened really with John Bennett?
Yeah.
Dan-
So I don't remember if the John Benet Ramsey it happened during a Christmas time, and I'm not sure if it happened before Mark Chapman and Jennifer Potter were killed, both by me, or I think it might have been after. It was during a Christmas party that John Benet's father, who apparently had divorced the mother of the child, who now lived elsewhere, he was a little bit intoxicated, and he was telling the sheriff, Sermon Dias Jr., that he was about to receive a check from the air. He's a commercial airline pilot, and I think he also did legal studies as well. He was bragging that he was going to be getting a $108,000 Christmas bonus. So the sheriff, I said to the sheriff, maybe there's some way we can find a way to get that money. And knowing that it's not going to come to me, it's going to go, all of it's going to go to the sheriff, because he always takes everything. So he is the one who decided to, do the ransom with John Bonet and the snuff film and all, and the ransom note and all of that. So yeah, he's we were taken to, we weren't again, the same girl with the Hoffa, who was the Hoffa driver, the President Reagan driver, was also with on this one, and she was the one who took the camera and did the snuff film. I'm the one who wrote the ransom note, which is why if you search somewhere on the internet, the people who have done the birth certificate, Obama's birth certificate, have said that the Obama birth certificate was done by the same person who did the John Benet Ramsey ransom note, which is correct. I did both the Obama forgery and the John Benet ransom note. So apparently there's a little bit more. They haven't divulged. They somewhere on the internet they did divulge it, but you're really going to have to search for that. But they do in Reed Hayes, Obama birth certificate, John Benet Ramsey connection. So you'll really have to search for that one. So John Potter, who's the real Abel Danger, Field McConnell, his real name is John Potter, got angry at the airlines for not cutting loose of his money, and then his daughter. The snuff film had to have been done, and then maybe she was later murdered. I don't have any knowledge of that. I know about the snuff film, and in fact, I remember now being in the room with the little girl, but she was more like, she was a lot older than what the pictures of National Enquirer pictures shows. She was like about 3 years older than that. So he got angry at the airline, and that's when I was ordered. I sat there for about 5 minutes, and then it was just like, no, I'm not going to sit here and stay on this plane and end up getting blown off. I've got to, I don't remember what he threatened me with, whether it was family, probably family, but it was, self-preservation. I've got to survive this, and I got off of that plane. So again, all of these, see, that's what they're just now getting down to, is that all of these acts of terrorism that seem to come from this direction and this direction, no, take and just bring it all in and put a little magnifying glass on Henry County, Clewiston, and you'll find out where a lot of the terrorists have been coming from. And some of them know it, like Nancy Pelosi knows this. She knows this. She's known from the very beginning. Her brother is or was, some people say he's dead. Her brother is Joseph P. D'Alessandro, who was the state attorney. So you see Nancy Pelosi today where she looks like she's a deer caught in the headlight and can't even make a logical comment. She talks stupid, like she just is not there anymore. She's caught in all of this, and she just lost the Speaker of the House position to Paul Ryan.
Ujú.
So,
Bueno,
and she can't.
Yes.
Yeah.
¿Qué ha dicho en todo esto de Alberto de la Snap Movie ya para cerrar el programa? ¿Qué ha dicho en concreto en todo? O sea, ¿qué nos puedes resumir?
mira, lo que te pudiera decir es que lo que nos está diciendo es que todo este grupo de terroristas, o sea, nacen de la misma situación de Florida, que Nancy Pelosi está incluida, etcétera, en cuestión, o sea que ella ha participado en la cuestión de explosión de aviones, etcétera. Y bueno, nos está, o sea, yo pienso que la respuesta a la pregunta específica que le hicimos, o sea, no me queda la situación muy clara, ¿no? Porque hay muchas situaciones que ella está mezclando, pero en fin, es cuestión de estudiar un poquito más de toda esta situación. Yo, de hecho, no estoy envuelto no conozco muchos detalles como tú, Juan, sobre esta situación, y bueno, es necesario a lo mejor hacer otro programa para ir
Claro,
un poco más al
pero
detalle y que fueran respuestas más concretas, ¿no?
sí, pero
Say,
¿qué?
un momento, because I want, again, I don't know if it was Miami or it might have been Fort Lauderdale. And keep in mind, as you know, right after we did the video from a couple of days ago, is when you see on the news they're shooting out at Fort Lauderdale Airport. Now, there's a possibility that might be a false flag, and there's crisis actors, and they're recreating the situation, or that's a warning not to disclose this information. Because again, I don't know if the airplane, both of the airplanes were out of Miami or possibly Fort Lauderdale. So I just want to make sure that you see the connection, the possible connection with.
Sí, aquí pasamos a la situación del aeropuerto de Fort Lauderdale. Pero en fin, ahorita, Juan, realmente ya las situaciones ya hay que analizarlas estas un poquito más al detalle, o sea,
Sí, más al detalle.
porque y teniendo un poquito más de bases, porque lo que nos menciona es que definitivamente está envuelta, que hay en muchas situaciones y que bueno, y que son grupos muy definidos, inclusive por los políticos, que se sabe quién está actuando en todas estas situaciones de terrorismo y de asesinatos, y que bueno, y que de alguna forma ella está metida al parecer en muchas situaciones, muchas conocidas, pero bueno, o sea, ya es necesario ir con un criminólogo, posiblemente ir detalle por detalle, porque sí nos cuenta mucha serie de situaciones que la verdad, bueno, en mi plan para poderlo traducir adecuadamente necesito entender también el detalle, no lo tengo.
Vale, pues damos finalizado el programa de hoy. Nancy Ruth Owens, muchas gracias. Thank you so much.
Okay.
You being here.
Muchas gracias, Nancy, por estar con nosotros. Thank you very much for being in the program, Nancy.
Okay. Adiós.
Gracias.